The super empath who didn't say a word but won everything. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman at a party. She wasn't the loudest in the room. She didn't tell the funniest joke. She didn't dominate the conversation. And truth be told, she barely said a word. But people noticed her. They felt her. One by one, people gravitated toward her. Not because she talked, but because she listened. Because when you were around her, it felt like the noise in your head got quieter. She wasn't flashy. She didn't try to prove anything, but she radiated a quiet confidence that made people trust her without even knowing why. She was what I call a super empath. Not the kind who gets walked over, not the one who sacrifices herself to keep others happy. She was present, powerful, grounded. She understood something most people don't. Empathy isn't weakness. Silence isn't emptiness. And connection doesn't always need words. You see, we've been sold the idea that to win, love, influence, respect, you need to talk more, do more, show more. But that's not true. Sometimes the real power is in restraint, in noticing what others miss, in giving someone the gift of being seen, without interruption, without judgment. And here's the secret. When you become that person, you don't have to chase anything. Not attention, not approval, not love. They all start chasing you. So if you've ever felt like the quiet one, the deep feeler, the observer in a room full of performers, don't underestimate your power. Because the super empath, the one who didn't say a word, she won everything, not by shouting, but by showing up differently. In a world that often rewards volume over value, it's easy to believe that being the loudest in the room equates to being the most powerful. But there's a deeper truth that plays out every day in quiet moments. Confidence doesn't always need an announcement. The kind of presence that draws people in isn't always broadcasted. Sometimes it's felt in the calm, grounded energy of someone who doesn't need to prove anything. This is quiet confidence, and it's magnetic. You've seen this person, maybe at a dinner party, at work, or even just in passing. They're not the center of attention, yet eyes keep drifting toward them. They don't interrupt, they don't dominate, but when they do speak, people lean in. It's not because they're trying to impress, it's because they're at peace with who they are. And that's rare. In a culture where everyone's performing, someone who's genuinely comfortable in their own skin becomes instantly intriguing. Quiet confidence doesn't beg for approval. It doesn't scan the room for validation. It simply exists, calm, assured, and secure. That inner stillness makes people feel safe. It tells them, I'm not here to compete with you. I'm not here to take anything from you. I'm here fully present. And in a world full of noise and distraction, that's deeply attractive. What most people misunderstand is that confidence isn't measured by how much you say, but by how you carry yourself when you say nothing at all. When someone walks into a room with self-assurance, not arrogance, but genuine self-assurance, they change the energy without needing to change the volume. It's in their eye contact, the way they listen, the way they're comfortable with silence. They don't fill gaps with nervous chatter because they don't fear being unseen. They already know their worth. That's what makes quiet confidence magnetic. It doesn't demand attention, it earns it. It's not aggressive, but it's undeniable. People are drawn to that kind of stability because deep down, we're all looking for something solid to hold onto. Someone who isn't rattled by other people's opinions. Someone who doesn't overcompensate. Someone who knows who they are when no one's watching. Quiet confidence is a kind of presence that doesn't rush. It lets others feel seen, heard, and safe. And in a world that often values the loudest voice, it's the quietest energy that lingers the longest. Empathy is often mistaken for softness, for fragility, even for weakness. People hear the word and assume it means being overly emotional, overly giving, or easily manipulated. But that interpretation misses the depth of what true empathy really is. At its core, empathy is not about losing yourself in other people's emotions. It's about understanding them, feeling them without being consumed, and using that awareness to navigate relationships with strength and clarity. Empathy is the ability to tune in, to pick up on what isn't being said, to read the emotional undercurrent in a room while everyone else is caught up in surface level noise. That's not a weakness. That's intelligence. Emotional intelligence, the kind that leaders, change makers, and the most effective communicators rely on every single day. The person who can walk into a space and immediately understand what people need, what they fear, what they hope for, that person holds invisible influence. And influence is the key word here. Empathy gives you leverage in a way that force never can. It allows you to connect, guide, and shift situations without shouting, without power plays, without ego. When you really just supply, when you really understand someone, you can reach them where they are, what way you wish they were. And when people feel understood, they let down their guard. That's when real transformation happens. Whether in friendships, romantic relationships, or business negotiations, there's also a kind of quiet power in staying grounded in your own emotions while holding space for someone else's. That's where empathy becomes strength. It's not about fixing others or carrying their pain. It's about witnessing it without judgment and still knowing who you are in the process. That's why true empaths aren't pushovers. They may feel deeply, but they are not easily swayed. They can hold compassion without losing boundaries. Too often, we're taught to value logic over emotion, action over reflection, but empathy sits right in the balance of the two. It allows you to respond instead of react. It gives you the power to diffuse conflict, inspire trust, and see people not just as they are, but as they could be. That vision is powerful. The person who leads with empathy doesn't need to dominate the conversation. They don't have to be the loudest voice to be heard. Their strength lies in their ability to feel what others miss, and that is what makes them unforgettable. Listening is one of the most underrated and misunderstood forms of connection. In a world where everyone is desperate to be seen, heard, and understood, the one who knows how to really listen holds the key to deep trust and influence. Most people hear just enough to reply, not to understand. But when someone listens with full attention, with no agenda, no interruptions, and no desire to shift the spotlight back to themselves, it stops people in their tracks. It creates space, and in that space, connection begins. Listening is more than staying quiet while someone else talks. It's about presence. It's in the way your eyes meet theirs, the way your body language tells them. I'm here. I care. I'm not trying to fix you or one-up you. I just want to know you. That kind of listening is rare. And because it's rare, it's powerful. People are so used to fighting to be heard that when they finally feel listened to, really listened to, it disarms them. It lowers defenses. It makes them feel safe. There's a quiet strength in being the person who doesn't rush to speak. It shows restraint. It shows confidence. It shows that you don't need to fill the silence to be valuable. You're not afraid to let someone else shine. You're not trying to compete for airtime. You're offering something far more meaningful, your undivided attention. And in doing that, you give people a moment of relief from the performance they feel pressured to maintain everywhere else. Listening also gives you information that most people miss. When you're not planning your next line or trying to impress, you start noticing tone, patterns, body language, pauses. You hear what's said and what isn't. That gives you insight, not just into someone's words, but into their world. You understand what they value, what they fear, what they need. And with that, you gain influence. Because when someone feels understood, they naturally trust you. They feel closer to you. And that bond is built not through persuasion, but through presence. Listening is connection without control. It's generosity without noise. And for those who master it, it becomes their superpower. While everyone else scrambles to be noticed, the true listener becomes unforgettable. Not because they said the most, but because they made others feel seen in a way few ever do. There's a major shift that happens when you stop chasing and start attracting. It's subtle, but it changes everything. How people respond to you, how opportunities show up, and how much peace you feel in your own life when you're chasing something, whether it's love, attention, approval, or validation. You're sending the message, sometimes without realizing it, that what you want is out of reach, that it exists somewhere outside of you, and that you have to work hard to earn it. That energy is felt. People may not always be able to name it, but they can sense it. And that sense of neediness or urgency pushes things away more often than it pulls them in. But when you're grounded in your own value, when you carry yourself with the quiet confidence that says, I know who I am and I don't need to beg to be seen, people notice. There's a difference between wanting something and needing it to feel whole. When you want something, you can approach it with calm curiosity. You can explore it without anxiety. You can walk away if it doesn't align. That's power. Attraction isn't just about looks or charm or charisma. It's about energy, the energy of someone who is already whole, already fulfilled, already enough. That energy draws people in. It makes them wonder what you have that they don't. It makes them curious, intrigued, even inspired. And here's what's even more powerful. When you stop trying to convince others of your worth, they start believing it faster. You create space for them to come toward you rather than overwhelming them with your desire to be chosen. This applies in relationships, friendships, career things. People respect what doesn't chase them. They value what holds its own ground. When you become the kind of person who can sit in stillness, who can choose themselves even when others don't, who can walk away without bitterness, that's when you start attracting the very things you used to chase. Not because you gave up, but because you stopped leaking your power. There's something incredibly attractive about someone who knows they're valuable with or without external validation. That inner sense of worth is magnetic. It speaks louder than words, louder than effort, louder than performance. When you embody that energy, life stops feeling like a constant hunt for connection and starts becoming a steady flow of aligned people, opportunities, and moments finding you. Fitting in has been drilled into most of us since childhood. Blend in, don't stand out too much, follow the script. But the truth is, the people who make the biggest impact, the ones who are remembered, respected, and genuinely valued, are the ones who chose not to shrink themselves to fit into someone else's mold. Being different isn't a flaw to hide. It's an edge to own. And when you embrace what makes you different, that's when you start to unlock your real power. Many people feel like outsiders. They feel too quiet, too intense, too sensitive, too observant, too not like everyone else. So they try to tone themselves down. They mute their instincts, fake extroversion, pretend to care about surface level things just to belong. But what they're really doing is trading authenticity for acceptance. And that trade never pays off in the long run. You might win approval temporarily, but deep down, you'll always feel like something's off, like you're playing a role instead of living as yourself. The irony is the very traits that make you feel out of place are usually the ones that give you the most value in the right spaces. Maybe you notice the small details others miss. Maybe your empathy runs deeper than most. Maybe you think differently, move at a different pace, care more deeply than what's considered normal. That's not a weakness. That's your differentiation. That's what sets you apart in a world full of carbon copies and loud voices with nothing real behind them. When you begin to show up as you are, not louder, not smaller, just you, something shifts. The right people start to notice. The right rooms start to open because you're not performing anymore. You're not exhausting yourself trying to earn your place. You're just showing up in your natural state. And that authenticity is magnetic to those who are looking for something real. Your difference becomes your signature. The world doesn't need more people pretending to be the same. It needs people who have the courage to stand in their uniqueness, to bring their true selves forward, even if that self doesn't fit the conventional mold. The most powerful kind of confidence isn't about being better than anyone else. It's about being fully at home in who you are. And when you walk through life with that energy, you stop trying to fit in and start naturally standing out. And so maybe the most powerful person in the room isn't the one commanding all the attention. Maybe it's the one who makes others feel seen without needing to steal the spotlight. The one whose empathy doesn't drain them, but guides them. The one who listens so deeply, others hear themselves more clearly. The one who doesn't chase love, respect, or connection because they've already found all three within themselves. We live in a world that rewards volume, but it's presence that leaves the lasting impression. And the super empath, the quiet observer, the calm presence, the deep feeler, they don't need to shout to win. They just need to show up as they are. So if that's you, if you've been told you're too sensitive, too quiet, too much of a feeler, I want you to remember you are not too much. You were just in rooms that asked for less. Stay rooted in your difference. Honor your depth. And never underestimate the quiet power of someone who knows who they are. Thank you for listening. And to the ones who see more, feel more, and speak less, your time isn't coming. It's already here. Thank you so much. Be well, stay grounded, and never forget the strength in your softness. Goodbye.